a stupendous strike!
Will a change of scenery produce the same results for Ola Kamara and the rest? We shall soon find out. Buckle up because MLS is back. The 2018 season just days away. And on tap for today, we're looking at Orlando, Philly, LA, Vancouver, and Minnesota. What is in store for these teams in 2018? We have got you all covered. Hello and welcome to the 2018 MLS preview shows every day this week leading up to this weekend. We will be here at 3 p.m. You can catch us on Facebook Live and our MLS YouTube page. We are breaking down every team, every major storyline. We have got you covered. I'm Susanna Collins. It is my pleasure to be joined by these gentlemen. We have former MLS or current MLS contributor Bobby Warshaw. Host of The Movement, my co-host of This Week in MLS, Kalen Carr, also former MLSer. Let's give him a shout out there. We have not forgotten.
Thank you, Sue.
And of course, the host of Extra Time Radio, Mr. Andrew Wiebe. Gentlemen, so good to see y'all.
Thank you. Nobody has forgotten that I haven't played, but it's okay. I'm here. I'm going to bring the heat on this show.
I was gonna mention it. I was getting there. He has played fantasy, which this is a great segue. This is how we do this here. Guys, if you have not joined MLS Fantasy, do it right now. MLSsoccer.com/fantasy. We're doing it a little bit different this year. There's going to be 2 separate seasons, one before All-Star and one after. Andrew, you've got a league.
Yes, I do. I have my own league to make sure that I stay engaged all season long. It's going to be easier this year, but I'd like to extend right now to all of you an invitation to the Extra Time Radio League. You could win this incredible T-shirt. We're going to give out one every single week. In this case, you're probably looking at the stats just as much as you're watching the games, but join the league. It's a great, great product this year. I'm so excited. I'm going to be handing out some L's, so beware. Beware.
Hey-o. Heyo. Also, who doesn't like some free swag? Also, you guys, you should download the MLS app. You can get that on the App Store or Google+. Analysis, highlights, amazing content from this crew right here. Why wouldn't you? It's the smart thing to do. Do it right now. But right now, let's get to some of the news of the day. And unfortunately, we're starting out on a bit of a down note. The news out of Seattle, Jordan Morris out for the season with a torn ACL. This injury happened in their first leg of CCL competition in El Salvador. And Kalen, I hate to bring up bad memories, but I know you have some experience with some ACL issues. From an emotional standpoint, what is this recovery like?
It's tough and long. So I feel for Jordan on this one. Such an exciting young player in the league. Was really looking for him to take a step forward, not only with his club, but with the national team. And you could tell right away when there was no contact that he was in trouble. And, the one thing I will say is it did give me an opportunity to really look at the game from a different perspective because you're forced to. So he'll be watching, learning from afar, not the way you would script it, but the way technology is advanced. I wouldn't be worried for his speed when he returns. I think he'll be able to have time. The club is giving him time to recover from this, but still devastating for the player.
And Kalen, you talked about his speed. That's the thing with Jordan Morris, and that's the thing with the Sounders. He's been criticized a lot lately. At the end of the day, the dude is fast, and the Sounders will miss that pace to stretch teams. They have depth, but they don't have anyone on that roster that can stretch teams like Jordan Morris.
So look, they did it last year for 4 months. I'm not saying this is a good scenario for them, and we want Jordan to get better ASAP, but they have experience there. Also, shout out to Kellen Acosta, just went under the knife as well. Don't want to see these young cats going down on an injury.
All right, well, let's continue talking about CCL. We've got the second legs coming up here. We mentioned Seattle lost their first leg in El Salvador. But of the teams, the MLS teams that are left, who do we see advancing?
I mean, it's Toronto FC, right? It's got to be Toronto FC. It's best ever in MLS, Toronto FC. They've got the mantle this year. They should get past the Colorado Rapids, probably Tigres on the other side. But you're talking 3 other MLS teams that better get to the quarterfinals. No excuses. I don't want to hear how it's tough. Concacaf's difficult. It's a different beast. Make it ugly, make it effective, get it done, move on to the quarterfinals, Red Bulls, FC Dallas, and Seattle Sounders.
Give us the wins. Give us the wins. Well, gentlemen, let's dive into our team previews. Starting with the team that I think had one of the more interesting off seasons, and that is Orlando City. Lots of new faces on this squad. We have Justin Meram, Sasha Kleshtin, Jason Kreis seemingly all in on this rebuild in Orlando. And Kalen, when you look at what they've done in the offseason, curious to get your thoughts. Is it enough?
I think so. To be honest, I thought it was enough before this final move, but bringing over Justin Meram, I think, takes them from not only a team that I think can get into the playoffs, but one that can potentially do some damage there. Justin's such a talented winger, in open field, one-on-one, one of the top wingers in the league. Reminds me a little bit of Nacho Piatti, doesn't get as much credit potentially, but in open space, he can cut you inside and curl it to the back post. He can take it to the left foot as well, and gives Dom Dwyer an option that he hasn't had before in Kansas City or in Orlando, as somebody who can really provide service alongside Sasha.
Yeah, look, and Miriam took a little bit of a risk.
Yeah.
Greg Berhalter, I'm not going to say he made his career, but he vaulted his career from kind of bit part player to difference maker, best 11 caliber in this league. But you mentioned Jason Kreis going all in. Yeah, he went all in and he had to. This team has gone down in points since their expansion season. The Wall is not going to be patient. They should not be patient. They made the moves. They have the pieces. This needs to be a playoff team. Jason Kreis got to get it done right now.
All right, well, let's look at some of those moves. The roster moves for Orlando City. So in, as we mentioned, Justin Meram, Sasha Kleston, Josue Coleman. Out, though, Kaká and Kyle Larin of note. Kaylin, what do you think of this?
Yeah, Rivas and Redding heading up to the Red Bulls, of course, for Sasha. But for me, a little bit of addition by subtraction. Kyle Larin, talented player, wanted his chance at Europe, but a bit of distraction last season. When will he go? When will the club move on and sell him? Now he's gone. And then Kaká, so much had to go through, the Brazilian legend, but didn't always have the health or the form to warrant that. Now you see a diversity of options in the attack with Justin, with Sasha, with Coleman. So a much more diverse attack for Kreis's men.
All right, so for more on this Orlando lineup, we've got Bobby and Andrew at the board, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Susanna. We'll get to Sasha Kleston in just a second. I promise you that. But a guy we have not talked about enough yet, Bobby, Uri Rosell, a late arrival into camp, but think back to the Sporting KC years. This is the anchor for the whole group.
Yeah, he was good. We got Kalen over there, the attacker, talking about the other attackers. And this is the way I see it. Coleman, Meram, Dwyer, they're the tires. They're the paint, but in this car, you need an engine, and that's Rosell. He's the one that's going to pull everything together and make it all tick.
He's a possession guy. He's a metronome guy. He also knows his job. He's going to sit in, let Yotun be at his best. I still have big questions about the back line. Jonathan Spector, he's a rock. They need him to be. Lamina Sane came in late as well, has European experience. Do you have faith in this back four?
I do have faith, and largely it's because Jonathan Spector, not a super athletic guy. He's never been a guy that's going to wow you on the field, but you know what he does? He organizes, he leads. So for Jonathan Spector, it's not about his own individual performance, Andrew. It's about, can he tie everything together in the back line?
Here's the big question for me. How does it all come together with all these new faces? 8 of these guys were not in Orlando this time last season. Sasha Kleston, one of them. He is the centerpiece. He is the 10. He is the chance creator, Susanna.
Okay, so let's talk about that centerpiece. Sasha Kleston obviously had a wonderful rapport with Bradley Wright Phillips in New York, but how does he fit into this Orlando team, Bobby?
Yeah, you mentioned Bradley Wright Phillips. Now he's got Dom Dwyer, and are there 2 more different strikers in this league? Wright Phillips is about movement. He's about getting forgotten. Dom Dwyer works his butt off. It's about pace. It's about power. And the thing with Kleston, guys, is that when he makes his passes, they're often disguised. His eyes look one way, his hips look one way, and then he gets it the other way. And the question is, can Dom Dwyer pick up on those little subtleties? So we talk about 8 new pieces, and can they fit together? It's those little things we don't know about yet.
Dom Dwyer's got to be jacked. He's got to be so excited to get it out like Sasha Kleston. And I think back to 2015 when Benny Feilhaber was so good, and then back to 2013 when Dom came on the scene. I think he'll understand how to get onto those balls. And as a physical player, he is going to change the game from what Kyle Larin brought. It's going to be a different look attack.
37 assists over the last 2 seasons. Sasha Kleston probably should have been the MVP 2 seasons ago. As far as chance creators, none better in the league in the attack, and now has a wealth of options. That looks like 3 guys that could be best 11 potentially starting up top for Orlando. That's a huge change for this club.
All right, prediction time. Best and worst case scenario for this Orlando City team, Bobby. Let's start with you.
You guys, I just can't get over the fact that it's really hard. It's really hard to bring 1 new guy or 2 new guys, and they have 8 in the last 12 months. Listen, I love what Jason Kreis has done. He's done it for the fans. He's worked hard to build a good team, but 8 new pieces, I can't get over that. I'm going to say out of the playoffs.
Okay.
Ooh, I'm going to say into the playoffs. I think the project works out for them, but I do think there are growing pains here, and I don't think that you're looking at this team being able to challenge the Toronto FCs, New York City FCs, Atlanta Uniteds of the world. But wow, that rivalry is going to be incredible. I think they do get in probably that 3 to 5 seed zone.
Well, it's not 8 new pieces, right? Some of them were there last season, and the ones they've brought in this year have MLS experience and good experience at that. The back line, Bendik, I think, is underrated. Sane come in, solidifies them. I think they not only make the playoffs, I think top 4 seed and host a game in the playoffs.
There you go.
The Wall will be happy with that. They will be.
Certainly will. All right, let's move on to another team that missed out on the postseason last year, the Philadelphia Union. Those fans a little bit restless in the offseason, just waiting for their team to make a move. That finally happened on Super Draft Day when they acquired David Accam from the Chicago Fire. Guys, probably one of the biggest moves that we saw in the offseason. What's he going to bring to this Philadelphia Union team? How does he fit in?
Yeah, one of the biggest, because it had to be. They needed difference makers. The Union had sat pat, and their fans were not happy about it. And David Accam's a difference maker. Make no mistake, first half of last season, he was almost unstoppable for Chicago Fire. A huge reason why Nemanja Nikolic started so fast. But injuries felled him. That will be a concern. But he produces. And with CJ Sapong, both those guys running the break, I absolutely love this move for them, but there's still one more possibly to come. Borek Dokal, the Czech Republic international, in camp in Clearwater. We still haven't got a release, any final word. It sounds like the number 10 will join the Union. That could be the final piece. I'm still not sure they did enough in the offseason, though.
Gives them some identity. You know, this club has been searching for identity. Now I think they have the weapons to go out and hit on the counter, turn teams around. Picault on one end, then you have Accam on the other, with the fulcrum all leading to CJ Sapong. Now they can really get out in the break. I know a lot of teams are going to be scared to face these guys now.
Well, one guy who's scary to face, the guy in goal, Andre Blake, arguably one of the best keepers in MLS. He just signed a new 3-year deal with the Union. And you know who else think he's pretty great? Some other keepers in the league. Let's check it out.
Way out wide to Kleshtin with a low cross, looking for right field, saved by Blake, and a big one for the Union at home.
Pretty athletic.
Again, Boateng on his left foot, points it back, balls out and saved.
Shot stopping.
Silva on the right foot, shot, just tipped over the bar.
He has the ability to make big saves.
Edge of the box, here's his low cross, saved by Blake.
I'm not sure how he said, but
Andre is incredibly gifted athletically, where he's growing and continuing to do so well. Is the art of goalkeeping is a very refined art, and you have to learn that every day on the training field, and you put it into play, and you can see how he's growing as a goalkeeper.
What a quick restart that was. Martinez saved by Blake.
He's a great goalie, and I keep an eye on him for sure to kind of learn from him as well.
Certainly the sky's the limit for someone like him because he has all the tools.
Andre Blake, the rock for this Union team. But you had an interesting point during the break, Kaylin. As we chatted, you were looking at this roster here, this 11, and you were saying, you know what, this reminds me a little bit of the Dynamo from last year.
Yeah, well, the Dynamo didn't have a number 10 last year, so this spot may still get filled in here. The young Fontana there for now, but these guys can get up and go, right? You look at Elise and Kyoto, well, you've got similar players in Picault and Accam being the biggest new piece here. Much has been asked which one of these two is a number 10. It's not in their nature, right? Now they're going to be able to do what they do best, protect the back line, be good in possession, and then hit on the break.
Borek Dokal would come into this spot. Fontana, just 18 years old, the homegrown. That's a little bit of a risk to start the season, as is perhaps Austin Trusty in the back line. Trusty the process, Kaylin? I apologize.
Wow, maybe I should have known.
These young center backs have a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely, but you do have Elliott here, who had 30 appearances last year, a 4th-round draft pick. So this club is part of their identity is to build young players into the team. We complain so much, play your kids. Well, this is a club that's doing it, but now has more dynamic weapons in the attack as well.
Medunjanin, I love the big switch to Accam. Got to watch out for that if you're an opposing team against the Union. Back to you, Susanna.
All right, well, the Eastern Conference is pretty stacked, and when it comes to this Philadelphia Union team, there's a lot of doubters out there, but I want this panel right here to make a case for the Union. Why do these Union fans have reason for hope?
I mean, I can make that case
Yes.
pretty easily. You have 15-plus goals from Sapong and David Accam. Fabian Herbers and Fafa Picault on the other side find a way to basically produce the same in goals and assists, and then these young center backs get it done. Austin Trusty is Matt Miazga, and Alejandro Bedoya is the leader they need. There it is. They're into the playoffs.
All right
there.
Geez, that's simple.
I don't know if I have that level of positivity, but...
Hey, that was a hypothetical, all right? That was a hypothetical.
Well, the Dynamo I mentioned before, one piece can change things. They brought in Elise last year, went from 10th to 4th. Now, the Union have a little further to go. I think they were 16th last year. But I think they will be much improved just outside the playoffs, but that's a big step forward for this club.
Okay, Bobby.
You guys, I have real faith in this team. I can't just build a scenario. I actually see it happening. I love David Accam. When he runs at people, it's as exciting as anybody in this league. Medunjanin an extra year in this league. Bedoya stepping up. I see them as a playoff team, and I'm not even sure they need the 10. It might be better if they just build their identity, like you said, like the Dynamo last year, in the playoffs for the Union.
Bobby, bringing the positivity. I love it. All right, well, let's move on to a team that's pretty happy to put 2017 behind them. That is the LA Galaxy, but a very productive offseason for them. They bring in a proven goal scorer in Ola Kamara. They sort of solidify that central midfield with the signing of Perry Kitchen. You know, last year they missed out on the playoffs for the first time in what felt like forever. Was last season just a blip on the radar for them? Can we expect to see sort of this Galaxy team of old moving forward?
Yeah, it better be a blip on the radar because times have changed and there's another team in LA. LAFC are building that stadium downtown trying to get it done. But for me, this comes down to the Dos Santos brothers. They are the centerpieces. They've been here, yes, Jonathan, for just half the season. But they have to be elite in this league. They have to be difference makers. They have to be, if not the leaders on the team, the guys that are leading by example. Got to get it done, but they have something they didn't have last year. That's a number 9. Ola Kamara will change this team.
Yeah, that's exactly where I wanted to go with this one. I mean, this guy, I think, is one of the purest finishers in MLS. Fantastic in his time in Columbus. You know, made the other Kamara look expendable, really. And now he comes to a team with the Galaxy that has been in search of a number 9. They had Robbie Keane, and he reminds me a little bit of Fish, Carlos Ruiz before that. I think this guy could potentially get 20 goals like Fish did, I think, in 2002 here. I'm dropping some Matt Doyle now.
Look at that.
But, just a pure finisher can finish first time in the box, and that's what the Galaxy need. They have great pieces around him with the Dos Santos brothers and Leggett and Alessandrini, but needed somebody to finish the action.
All right, well, let's take a look at some of the offseason moves here. As we mentioned, in Ola Kamara, Perry Kitchen, David Bingham, but out Jazzy Zardes, guy who has been there forever.
Look, he gave so much to the community. Props to him for all his years. He's on to a better place in Columbus. Sometimes you need to change. Same thing goes with Bingham. Same thing goes for Perry Kitchen. Same thing goes for Felcher. All those guys kind of outs at their club, and Skeljic has to hit. They need those center backs to perform. That is a big problem area for them right now.
All right, well, one player not in, but one whose name that we keep sort of hearing rumblings about. I'm talking about Zlatan Ibrahimovic. The rumors have been swirling about his pending arrival in LA. So let's say he does eventually come to the team. Where does he fit in? We've got Kaylin and Bobby at the board to break it down.
Susanna, all about the stars here. We'll get to that in a second. But Bobby, I want to start with this new look Galaxy here. A lot of weapons going forward, but there's a piece in the middle that you think anchors this group.
Yeah, it's like we said with Rosell in the engine room, right? You just need somebody. Look how talented this team is. Look how free-flowing they can be. But at the end of the day, you just need an anchor. You need someone to protect the back four, to provide stability to your team. But the second part of this too with Perry Kitchen is when you talk to people around the league about Kitchen, he's a leader. He holds players accountable. And what does this Galaxy need this year? They need Dos Santos to be held accountable. And obviously it's hard. It's hard to look those full internationals in the eye and say, guys, come on. But if Kitchen can do that, the Galaxy could be very, very good.
Okay, now let's indulge Susanna. If they do bring in Zlatan Ibrahimovic, how does he fit into this lineup?
I was hoping you would take this first because I don't know. I mean, obviously if Zlatan comes, you tell Zlatan to, hop on the field, but where do you put him? I really like the way this team is put together. I like the balance, but I don't know how Zlatan fits into the full picture of the Galaxy this year.
Would be a nice problem to have for Siggy. I think Dos Santos could potentially slide out here. Then you see it's either Perry Kitchen and Sebastian Leggett fighting for this spot. And the other one, obviously underneath, Zlatan allows Kamara to move forward. He becomes a facilitator going into the attack. Tough to see. We'll see how it plays out. Nice problem to have. But for more on the Galaxy, let's head out to our own Jillian Sakovits, who's with Gio Dos Santos.
What does this team have to do this year?
Well, we know the responsibility we have as a Galaxy player. We are in one of the biggest clubs in this league. And every year is a new opportunity, so we're prepared, we're excited for what's coming on this year and ready to go this Sunday.
Half of this roster is brand new faces. What has preseason been like? How is the team gelling?
It's been very good, we've been working really hard. We've knowing each other every single day, in and out of the field, and I think we build a very good chemistry between everyone, and I think we're excited for what's coming on this year.
What have you and now some of the other veteran players here at the Galaxy told the new guys about this team and what you want to accomplish this year?
I mean, I think, you always when you come a club with a big history, you know. You just have to come and achieve the goals, you know. And everyone knows Galaxy is a team that have to be always on the top, and we hope this year we get Galaxy where it belongs.
Gio, thanks so much for the time.
You're welcome.
Guys.
Thank you so much, Jill. All right, prediction time, guys. In LA, do we have a worst to first situation? What do we think?
First? Nah, no way. Not first, but I do think we have a worst into the playoffs and probably into the top 3 seeds if this all works out for them. Ola Kamara changes things for this team. I think Giovanni Dos Santos, Jonathan Dos Santos, it's going to be on the upward trajectory for them. The defense figures it out. Maybe Tomas Hiller Arce comes in. This team's in the playoffs.
The biggest story for me is the LA Derby, how LAFC has come into the picture and really put pressure on the LA Galaxy. And it's interesting how these two clubs are building a team. Going with Vela for LAFC, they want to be the club of the city, a big name in Los Angeles, but maybe not globally, whereas the Galaxy, a global brand, maybe going for Zlatan. I do see them back in the playoffs and potentially in the top 3 seeds.
Oh my God, that rivalry week game, if Zlatan is there,
Woo!
Please, that's so fun. That's so fun.
Bobby.
In the playoffs, potential to push, like every other team in MLS right now, questions in the back, but look at that. That front 6 has me so excited in the playoffs.
It's tasty. It's tasty. All right, we're moving on to a team, and I'm going to be honest, this team is one that has me scratching my head. I can't quite figure out who they are. We're talking about the Vancouver Whitecaps. At times last year, they looked so good, went on a really nice run at the end of this season. On decision day, we're in a position to secure the #1 seed in the West. That obviously didn't happen, and then once the playoffs started, it all kind of went downhill for them. I do not know what to make of this Whitecaps team. Bobby, help me out. Your thoughts here.
Yeah, Susanna, you're right when you said they looked good and they looked bad at times. But guys, it's actually just the way they approach the games that has me concerned. Because every game you weren't sure who they were going to be. And I'm all about flexibility. A team needs to have options. But within those options, you need to have an identity. You need to be good at something. And some days they were direct, some days they were free-flowing. And that concerns me. In terms of building a full season, the fact that they don't have an identity worries me.
This looks a lot like their playoff performance, except people are actually shooting. It was not a good time for them in the postseason. But they have something to build on. And now they have Kai Kamara, the #9 for years and years and years in Vancouver, has just been a revolving door. Freddie Montero is out, Kai is in. I think he fits what they're doing. This is going to be Fi Slam a Jam. Let's kind of throw it back here. Put the ball in the air. Let him go get it. Play off of him. Play down the knockdowns. They have the talent to do it.
Kai is a singular talent in MLS. You haven't seen a guy like this with this type of skill set since maybe.
By the way, right there.
He just did that with his foot, by the way. He dunked on a goalkeeper with
insane.
his foot.
What?
So, that's a nice option to have, Bobby. I mean, to be able to have sort of an escape route when you need one, to be able to play long to him. Even Columbus, when they, a possession-oriented team, when it worked for them, really, it was able to just find Kai. And Kai has the flexibility as well. Didn't really fit in New England, but found 12 goals last season, which is a nice haul for a guy that didn't really fit into
12
the system.
goals, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this guy gives them a piece that can actually make them dangerous in the playoffs. They seemed a bit toothless heading into that home and away leg last year against Seattle, but Kai and set pieces, as you mentioned, makes them a better team.
All right, well, let's take a look at some of the offseason roster moves for the Whitecaps. As we mentioned, in Kai Kamara, Anthony Blondell, worth mentioning as well, but out Freddie Montero. What do you think, Bobby? I know there's a young guy, too, that you're also really excited to watch here.
Yeah, we can talk all we want about the Whitecaps, but what I'm most excited for is give Alphonso Davies the keys. He's played spot minutes. He's gotten a start here or there the last couple years, but put him in. Give him all the starts, all the minutes. Let's see how good this kid is and how good he can become.
I love it. All right, well, for more on this Whitecaps roster, let's send Kaylin and Andrew to the board.
All the starts, all the minutes for Alphonso Davies. Please, Carl Robinson, hook us up. Did you see that run against LA Lights? Entire length of the field. But Kai Kamara and Alphonso Davies have the potential, with Yordi Reyna, to be one of the most dangerous threesomes in the league. On the run, just physically impossible to handle.
Right, well, we have Kai Kamara, as we've mentioned, right in the middle, but he's going to open up space for Teixeira to kind of tuck in between, and then for either knockdowns or stretching the field in behind, Yordi Reyna coming through. Davies, of course, if you want to bring Brek Shea in there.
Nerwinski up the right wing. This team on the counter is going to be scary. The question I have is, do they have a changeup? And the other question I have is, will Tim Parker still be here. There are a lot of rumblings about whether he wants to move on, about whether the contract details between he and the clubs he looks for a new deal are matching up. What happens if they lose Parker?
Well, they can afford to sit on him right now, a quality player I think they'd like to have involved. If he does move on, as it's rumored to be, no problem. In comes Aaron Mound, top player for me, very experienced with Salt Lake, of course. And look, the other thing that stands out, we talked about set pieces. Waston right here. Gazal, you got Tony Chani on the bench. This is one of the bigger clubs in MLS. Physical nature, I think, over the course of a season, really able to impose their will on opposing teams.
Yeah, Kai Kamara is an entertainer. Heart-shaped hands. I'm looking forward to what he brings out with the celebrations. Back to you, Susanna.
All right, so Bobby, this is a team that has a very distinct style of play, one that didn't necessarily work out for them in the playoffs, as we've talked about. My question for you, is there still room for the long ball in MLS?
Absolutely, especially as more teams go to play possession. If teams are trying to pass and you can just get right back over them on the counter, you go for it. And especially with Kai Kamara, listen, it might not be as fun to watch at times, but a league is always better when there's more options to watch. There's more styles. So if they can properly execute a direct style, go for it.
And Kai said they're going to go for it.
Yeah.
Look, set pieces and counterattacks. We talked about the Houston Dynamo. Yeah. That worked pretty well for them. Now, is it in the playoffs long term? Is that the strategy you want? Didn't really work out last year against the Sounders, but I think Kai changes his team. I think he's hungry. I think he had a bad experience in New England. I think this is a year he'll look at and say, "This is my team. This is my opportunity. I'm going to grab it with both hands."
Okay, prediction time. Overall, do we think that the Whitecaps have taken a step forward or a step back this offseason?
I'm going to go push. Can I push that
Yeah,
one and
of
just say they're pretty level where they
Okay.
are? I mean, I don't think they took a huge step forward. I think they're starting to figure out maybe what fits them best and what fits this group best, and that sometimes is just getting set pieces and going up and playing within their capabilities. So I think they're a playoff team, no doubt about that. Do I think they're going to be better than third in the West? Probably not.
I think they've taken a step forward as far as talent. They're bringing Kai Kamara, also Blondell, who led the Venezuelan league in scoring. I don't think they'll make a step forward in the standings necessarily, but a more dangerous team in the playoffs.
Bobby, real quick.
Not a step forward or a step back, but the West just got better. It was a weird year for the West last year, and Vancouver took advantage of it. The West got better, Vancouver out of the playoffs.
No playoffs?
No playoffs.
No playoffs. All right, well, let's move it on. Yesterday, we spent a lot of time talking about Atlanta United, one of the expansion teams from last year. Today, we're talking about that other expansion side. Minnesota did not have the fairy tale first season that Atlanta United have. A bit of a rough start for them last year, but they made some big moves on Super Draft Day. Didn't get the DP
that's the problem,
they were pushing for. I mean, I'm just, it was, this offseason was sort of blah for me for them.
Yeah.
What's the outlook here?
If you're hanging your hat on Super Draft in this day and age in MLS with TAM and DPs and the amount of money that's flying around, that's an issue in itself. And yes, Abu Danladi was a great player for them last year. I think he'll be better. But they missed in the transfer market. Nicholas Benedetti did not get that one over the line. Maybe it'll happen in the summer, the Deportivo Cali playmaker. I just look at this team and I still think you got too many left wingers. Your balance isn't right in the midfield. You don't have the talent to compete. The West got better. You're going to be in for a long year, and I don't think the defense problems are solved either.
All right,
I know that's tough.
Let's take a look at some of the roster moves that Minnesota made. Not a ton of movement here. We see Tyrone Mears, Matt Lampson out, Johan Venegas. But Kaylin, what do you make of this?
Well, not a lot out on the positive, but not a lot in. And that's the story that everybody is talking about. Tyrone Mears, a nice piece on the right flank. Ethan Finley came in partway through the season last year, was a nice addition. I think he's become more comfortable. The emergence of Abu Danladi. Can they find a way for him and Christian Ramirez to fit on the field? Don't have the luxury of going one at a time. These two need to find a way to gel.
Play together. All right, well, for more on the Minnesota lineup, we've got Andrew and Bobby standing at the board.
I was a little harsh. I admit that, Bobby. But you found a way to get Danladi on the field with Christian Ramirez. Why?
Because you can play striker essentially from a wide position, right? Just because you start out there doesn't mean you can't make runs towards goal. And if you look here, if you can make your runs angled at goal, it's often advantageous. You lose the center backs, you lose the markers, and you float into the box free. So I wouldn't mind seeing getting both those guys in the field.
And who's ghosting him behind? That's Kevin Molino. We haven't mentioned him here, but they spent a lot of money to get him. Now it's the time for him to be a difference maker.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Remember when Kevin Molino was the first big TAM signing, 12 months ago? And we were a little surprised, but we also said, yeah, maybe Listen, when you get that responsibility, sometimes it takes time to grow into it. Sometimes it takes just a year to learn how you fulfill what people expect of you. So I'm not counting Molino out yet.
Okay, the back line here, that was the issue for so long last year, especially early on. There are some rumblings that they don't think they'll ship as many goals, but I think so much of it's going to come down to this midfield. Are they ready to shield and keep those easy chances and those 1v1s off this back line?
Absolutely. Every smart center back knows the thing that matters more than their own ability is their defensive midfielder's ability. The problem is, Andrew, right now it looks like Cronin might be out with concussions. Unclear when he's coming back. And if Cronin's not there to protect the back four, it could be a problem again.
Yeah, still a lot of questions for this team, Susanna.
A lot of questions, but in the same vein that we did for Philadelphia Union, let's end on a positive note. Let's give Minnesota fans a reason for hope here. What is the best case scenario for the Loons in 2018?
Should I take this one since I kind of went worst case scenario to start? Look, I think the best case scenario is within reach, and that's the back line figures it out. They find somebody in the summer, maybe Nicholas Benedetti to be a difference maker for them. They hang in, they hang in, they hang in. Christian Ramirez and Abu Danladi hit double figures, and they find a way into the 5th or 6th playoff spots. And that would be a great season as they wait to open up that new stadium.
Yeah, I don't think they'll make the playoffs. Just too many teams that have emerged in the West and gotten stronger. Salt Lake outside the playoffs, Dallas outside the playoffs, LA Galaxy outside the playoffs. So it's going to be an improved conference, but they do have Christian Ramirez, I think one of the highest returns for an American goal scorer over the last 2-3 years. He's